Welcome you all to CHD 222, Teaching Young Children Social Studies. This is the lecture video for Chapter 1. And in this episode, we're going to be learning all about these are the social studies. As defined by the National Council for the Social Studies, social studies are the integrated study of the social sciences and humanities to provide civic competence. Within the school program, social studies provides coordinated, systematic study drawing upon each disciplines as anthropology, archaeology, economics, geography, history, law, philosophy, political science, psychology, religion, and sociology, as well as the appropriate content from the humanities, such as mathematics and natural sciences. After reviewing all of the week's content, you should be able to define social studies, explain past social studies approaches, and summarize characteristics of social studies today. So join me, Mrs. Murph, as we learn all about these are the social studies. It seems overwhelming. The field of social studies is enormous, and children are very young. Preschool and primary children are too new to this earth to be expected to learn all about economics, history, and geography, much less the attitudes and skills necessary to participate in a democratic society. Yet it is because children are so young that the subject of social studies is critical during early childhood. In these early years, the foundation for later and increasingly more mature understanding is constructed. Realizing that children have a long time in which to grow and learn makes teaching social studies in the preschool primary classroom less overwhelming. During the early years, children need to develop anticipatory, intuitive ideas and interests, and gain basic knowledge that will serve as a foundation for the elaboration of more complex understandings, attitudes, and skills. Then, too, social studies learning takes place naturally as children participate in the preschool or primary classrooms, where they are themselves a very small democratic society. Within these classrooms, the rights of the individual are constantly balanced with those of the group. Children naturally learn and use the knowledge, skills, processes, dispositions, and attitudes that will serve as a foundation for later social studies learning. Preparing children to be productive citizens in a democratic society and to integrate knowledge, skills, and attitudes within and across disciplines are the two main purposes of the social studies. Only when social studies are integrated, meaningful, and of interest to children will the discipline fulfill its purpose. Today's social studies are also grounded in current thinking about social studies education. Using current theories of learning, developmentally appropriate practices, NCSS, or the National Council for Social Studies, and discipline standards and current curriculum models, teachers have a basis for fulfilling the primary goals of the social studies. To prepare children to fulfill their goal as citizens of a global world and to integrate the total curriculum. Before the 1930s, the social studies were concerned with an unchanging body of facts that should be memorized. Appalled by this dry memorization of things children knew nothing about and had no experience with, Lucy Mitchell in 1934 developed a practical and detailed account of the ways in which teachers could enlarge and enrich children's understanding of the world around them and their place in it. Mitchell's basic educational concept was that children need to experience things for themselves. She believed that the social studies curriculum should be based on children's experiences and their discovery of how the things and culture of the world around them on the here and now. Mitchell's insight into the intellectual processes of young children, in terms of relationship thinking, generalizing from experiences, and recreating concrete experience through symbolic or dramatic play, are consistent with the theories of Piaget and Vygotsky. The dominant organizational pattern for sequencing social studies topics has been based on Mitchell's work. For example, the typical social studies curriculum began with the child in the neighborhood and then expanded as the child was introduced to societies farther away in time and space. This is known as the spiral curriculum or the expanding horizons, expanding communities curriculum. As Mitchell was formulating her theories, Patty Smith Hill, in an attempt to apply the principles of democracy to school organization, initiated a curriculum with the goal of habit and social skill development, training children in the skills and habits necessary to function in a democratic society, which would prepare them to participate in a democracy. Hill's social living curriculum grew from child development and psychoanalytic theories, coupled with the growing concern in the 1930s about education for citizenship. Caregivers shared the goal of supporting and fostering the social and emotional growth of young children by leading children to do the following: learn to share materials and ideas, develop healthy relationships with others, become self-reliant, feel responsibility for their own behavior, develop interest and attention span, cooperate with others in a friendly, willing spirit, appreciate the worth and contribution of others, and develop self-concept and self-respect. The holiday curriculum is often the cornerpost of social studies for young children, but this also has lots of weaknesses, as year after year, the same celebrations are repeated without much concern for the knowledge, skills, attitudes, or values gained from them. In the middle of the 20th century, two major social forces influenced the social studies curriculum. It was the Soviet Union's launching of Sputnik and the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Theories, especially those of Piaget and Vygotsky, also influenced the curriculum. Today, social studies continue to be influenced by Dewey, Piaget, Vygotsky, and Mitchell. However, they also reflect current learning theory as well as social and political forces. These influences are manifested in active learning, integrated subject areas, meaning and relevance, high interest, engagement and challenge, social and participatory skills, attitudes and values, and standards for knowledge, skills, and attitudes. The scope and sequence is now organized differently. Scope refers to how, to what, and how much will be taught, and sequence refers to the order in which it will be taught. Many states have revised their standards of learning away from the expanding horizons framework in order to expose children to other times, places, and cultures earlier. For example, in highly diverse communities, it will not be unusual to find a world map in a kindergarten classroom. The concept of cultural universals are also an accepted framework for social studies. The cultural universals is defined as the human needs and experiences that are basic elements of all cultures, past and present. The universals include food, clothing, shelter, transportation, families, work, communication, government, and recreation, which are all part of a student's everyday life. The Montessori, High Scope, and Reggio Emilia curriculum models for early childhood education have a major social studies focus. These three curriculum models currently in use in early childhood education provide the what and how for social studies. The what includes the knowledge put forward in the NCSS standards. The how addresses the way in which the learning environment is structured and focuses on the desired skills, attitudes, and values developed in each model. Each of the three curriculum models described is based on constructivist theories of active learning, integrated content, and meaningful experiences that are of high interest to children. So now let's review what we've learned. Knowledge of the content, skills, and attitudes that make up the social studies is necessary if children are to be prepared to take their place as fully productive members of a democratic society. Only when social studies are active, integrated, meaningful, and of interest to children, however, will the discipline fulfill its purpose. Today's social studies are also grounded in current thinking about social studies education. Using current theories of learning, developmentally appropriate practices, NCSS, discipline and state standards, and current curriculum models, teachers have a basis for fulfilling the primary goals of the social studies, which are to prepare children to fulfill their role as citizens of a global world and to integrate the total curriculum. So that wraps us up for Chapter 1. You can learn more about this topic by reviewing the resources posted in your Blackboard course. And as always, if you have any questions, please contact me. And thanks again for joining me as we learned all about the social studies. See you next time.